Welcome back, everyone. This week I picked up this absolutely stunning and huge National Mount Airy dresser. This thing is about 6.5 feet long. It is huge. It's ginormous. It barely fits on my staging wall, and it is so heavy and well made. I saw this piece in my local thrift store and it was on a deep discount. I was so happy, I couldn't believe it. I grabbed the tag right away and I said, I will buy this right now. I actually really like the hardware. They are vintage and really interesting. I like the shape. I like how versatile they are. They're nice and easy to grab to pull the drawers out. There's a lot of really interesting different patterns of wood grain, different angles and cutouts, dimensions. I love this fluting detail, the rosettes on the top. It's just a really nice, well-made piece of furniture. I think that part of its problem is that it's just a dated finish. My plans for this piece are to completely strip it down, sand it down, and to give it a more modern finish. It's in fantastic shape as far as the veneer and the wood goes, so that shouldn't be an issue whatsoever. But due to its size and the number of drawers, I have my work cut out for me. Follow along and watch me transform this piece. I already know a couple of the drawers are missing the stops that keep them from going all the way into the cavity of the dresser. This is a really simple solution. They just came unglued, the little wooden blocks that stop it from going any further, and they're actually still in the dresser themselves. They're just floating around loose in the cavity. I'll go ahead and take everything apart, take all the drawers out, take all the hardware off, and address areas like that that need slight or minor repairs. Like I said before, I plan on keeping and polishing up and reusing this hardware on this piece, so I am going to make sure to save every piece and thoroughly look it over to make sure that it is all actually functioning the way it's supposed to. While I'm taking it apart, I do also want to take those doors off. I find it so much easier to work on pieces by removing the doors and the hinges, being able to clean everything up. I'll just make sure to label the hinges so that they go back in their original places on the piece so that these doors open and close as smoothly as possible. My plan is to use a chemical stripper on this piece. The original finish is pretty dark. I want something that's going to take this off relatively easy, something that's heavy duty and is going to make my life easier. Since this is such a large piece, I have a lot of surface area that I have to cover. So anything that will help reduce the amount of hours that it takes me to do this, I am all in for. After applying this stripper and letting it sit for a few minutes, I went ahead and scraped it off. If you live in a climate that's not quite as warm as mine, you can leave it on longer, but since I live in such a hot climate, I find that I have to scrape this off right away, and if I need to do another round of it, I do. The afterwash with a combination of a wire bristled brush as well as very fine steel wool really helps me to get in those contoured and curved areas, the areas that have little cracks that stain might settle in. It really does help to bring it up from those areas. Even though I am stripping this entire piece, I find that even though I use stripper, everything needs to be thoroughly sanded afterwards. Stripper does not remove 100% of everything, and the surface still does need to be addressed, and any leftover product needs to be removed. The top of this dresser did have a thicker finish on it, which is very, very common. Obviously, you want the top of a piece to be more durable. It sees the most action, so it's pretty common for it to have a thicker lacquer on the top. In this situation, I did go ahead and do 2 coats back to back of stripper and scraped everything right back. I did go in with a 3rd coat of stripper after this, and that really cleaned up any stubborn spots that might have been stuck on there. And after scraping all of this back, I did go in with my afterwash on a fine grit steel wool and really buffed the surface to make sure that all the rest of the finish was pulled up at least as much as I could with these products. After several days of tackling this dresser using the chemical stripper, it was finally time to take my sanders to it. I find it's easiest to be versatile with sanding. I have a detail sander that is square, has square edges, as well as an orbital sander that is a little bit more robust and gets the finish off a little bit quicker. But you're going to see I still have to do a lot of hand sanding on this piece. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of curves. My sanders don't fit into every single one of those curves. Even though I do have a foam abrasive for both, that really helps maintain the integrity of curves, but it's not going to remove 100% of the finish in all areas. Just like the first step, this second step took me several days. It's very, very time consuming to remove finish and to strip a piece of furniture down. That's why I really like to make sure that whatever piece of furniture I am going to be stripping down is going to be worth it in the end. And when I say worth it, I mean it's going to have a nice pattern to the wood grain. It's going to look cohesive, and it's really going to make the piece shine. I know not everyone agrees with painting parts of furniture or even the entire piece, but sometimes a piece of furniture calls for that. And if that means that that piece of furniture stays out of the landfill, then I think it's a win-win in my books. Like I said before, even though this is a really high quality, wonderful brand of furniture, this was a deep, deep discount dresser that I picked up at the thrift store. I don't know how much longer they would let it sit there before they just get rid of it. But I knew that this piece was special and needed a little bit of TLC to turn it around, but I was so excited to pick it up. With everything smooth sanded, I'm gonna go ahead and do my paint wash. I have just a bottle of water. I'm gonna mist everything down so that my paint wash does not dry too quickly on me. After I mist it, I will apply a liberal coat and then I will wipe it back immediately, making sure to wipe in the same direction as the wood grain so that if there are any streaks that are left behind, it blends in with the wood grain. With the new finish on, it's time to seal everything up. I am using a water-based polyurethane in a satin sheen. I find that these water-based products work really well over lighter finishes because they're not going to yellow or amber over time or in the direct sunlight. They hold the true color a lot better than an oil-based product will. I'm able to spray this through my sprayer. It sprays very, very nicely. And another perk is that it dries so quickly. It's really nice to be able to spray multiple coats within the same day, just giving it the appropriate time to dry in between. Oil-based does take a lot longer typically. In between coats, I'm going to take a very, very fine grit sanding sponge and I'm going to go over the entire piece, all of the curves, all of the contours, and really make sure it's nice and smooth to the touch. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and keep spraying my coats. I did a total of 3 coats on this piece. You can do more if you want, but I find 3 to be incredibly durable and pretty resilient. With the dresser itself all done, I am going to now address the hardware. I'm bringing them into my kitchen, adding 50% water, 50% vinegar, and I'm going to boil them on the stove for 20 minutes. Once that's all done, take it to the sink. I'm going to use some Barkeeper's Friend and a really fine grit steel wool, and I'm going to polish all of this hardware. It does take a little bit of time and a lot of elbow grease, but it really, really shines these pieces up and makes them look brand new again. After a quick rinse, I'll dry everything off just to make sure there's no water stains on these pieces. You can really see the difference between the old tarnished piece and that new bright piece. To keep that bright finish, I am going to spray a thin coat of lacquer over the top just to seal it all in. And with the hardware all polished up, I can finally start pulling this piece back together. I'm going to take the original hardware that I saved off to the side and reinstall it on the doors, making sure that I'm putting the appropriate hinge in the appropriate location. And right after the hinges comes the hardware. I'm going to screw that in, making sure it's centered, making sure it sits properly, and then clean out the drawers. Everything gets a really thorough cleaning afterwards. There's a lot of dust from the sanding, not to mention the spraying, so I want to make sure to wipe everything really, really well. And with that last piece of hardware installed, let's remind ourselves what this piece looked like before I started working on it. It was a really pretty piece. It did need to be refinished. There were some areas that were wearing through. There were a few of those drawers that just slid way too far into the cavity of the dresser, but that was an easy fix. And let's take a look at it now. It's really bright and refreshing. I really, really love that tone-on-tone look of a lightened wood grain with brass hardware. It's such a pretty statement piece. Something this big is definitely going to have a presence in a room. It'll match so many different types of paint colors. You could go dark, you could go light, and this would blend and this would fit in and still hold its own in a space. I really hope you enjoyed this video this week. If you did like it, please feel free to like, subscribe, and maybe even check out another one of my videos. Thank you so much for watching.